Now, coming to the cardiovascular system, it has been seen that a higher risk of death has been seen in patients because of ischemic heart disease who has been treated with radiation therapy for to the chest, like in case of Hodgkin's and breast cancers. So all investigators agree that breast irradiation leads to increased heart disease, a little controversial, but it has been associated with coronary issues. The factors that has been implicated for the development of coronary artery disease is the percentage of left ventricular irradiation, the concurrent other therapies like hormonal treatment and history of hypercholesterolemia. And when the radiation therapy is combined with chemotherapy like doxorubicin, the synergistic side effect of these agents, radiation versus chemotherapy, could affect the myocardium, leading to cardiovascular toxicity. In case if the exposure to the chest includes the heart, it can lead to premature coronary, valvular heart disease, even the conduction abnormalities. And this remains a concern in younger patients who might not otherwise be expected to at risk of coronary artery disease. So in this situation, when we don't expect, but they have received radiation, we should have a high level of suspicion. And then accordingly, we should try assessing these patients, looking for the symptoms, and finally managing them. Radiation therapy to mediastinum can lead to effusion, tamponade, and constrictive pericarditis. And pericarditis can be a late phenomenon also. That's why we should not be ensuring or say that if somebody has received radiation a couple of weeks or months back and everything is fine, sometimes it can present late also. So we should be looking for any of these symptoms even when the patient comes for surgery at a later date. You can get an echocardiography if physical examination reveals some findings. Tamponade and constrictive pericarditis, they needs to be managed prior to a surgical procedure, especially a major surgical procedure. And patient with asymptomatic malignant pericardial effusions, they needs to be monitored in the perioperative period. They may not require drainage as such, but yes, we should be taking cognizance of presence of this effusion, and accordingly, we should be managing these patients. Vessels with severe or critical radiation-induced carotid stenosis are revascularized prior to surgery if the critical stenosis lies within the anticipated surgical field, or if we anticipate a major surgical procedure would lead to large intraoperative fluid shifts that may adversely affect the hemodynamic of the patient. Patient without critical disease, they can be treated conservative management using various pharmacological agents. Now, having said that, if all those implications affecting the cardiovascular system happens, then we should be assessing them. And we would be requiring the investigation depending upon the initial examination findings. We can get an X-ray done or a 12-lead ECG, to the echo, resting echo, or a stress echo may be required in these patients. At times, we may also require radionuclide angio for these patients to look for the status of coronaries. So it all depends upon the various risk factors and the type of surgeries. And based on the combination of the assessment of the patient and the proposed surgical procedure, we can think of which type of cardiac functioning will be required for these patients. The ECG will show an earlier signs of cardiotoxicity. It may be in the form of sinus tachycardia, premature atrial or ventricular contractions, non-specific ST and T wave changes, or low voltage QRS complexes, but they're insensitive indicators of MI. That's why at times we will be required the other modalities. So it will be like a screening one, and then we can look for other modalities for specific evaluation of the heart status, as I mentioned earlier. Also, we can see prolongation of QT interval depends upon the drugs that we are using for our ketogenib or the VEGF inhibitors. They are responsible for increasing the QT interval, and that can lead to fatal arrhythmias in the perioperative period. So we should be very, very cautious. And the risk factors for torsidy pointis include the concurrent use of other drugs that can lead to QT interval, like for example, terfenadine, that slow drug metabolism, like the various antibiotics and antifungals, or at times being a major surgical procedure and nutritional issues, these patients may have electrolyte disturbances, and all those things can precipitate torsities in these patients that needs to be taken care of. The pulmonary side effects are again very, very important. That needs to be taken consideration.